you're doing outreach and you find out that a client, upon doing your due diligence, isn't worth talking to, you should probably not waste your time.
Instead of them turning around and actually running the code for the client, they could teach the client how to do this themselves.
In the world of outreach, every moment counts. A successful agency ensures adaptability. Navigate through the noise. Stick to your goals, but be open to evolution.
It's very different to what's being proposed. A lot of people are coming to you saying, work for free and we'll give you a percentage bonus. That's not really how you should function.
This is the Grappling Growth.
We're all grappling with something. Each and every entrepreneur, business owner, and leader experiences growing pains, no matter where they are on their business journey. On Grappling Growth, we discuss the challenges we consistently face in striving for more, sharing strategies, ideas, and thoughts on how to grapple with growth. We're building a platform where you can join us sharing your challenges and successes alike, whilst growing. So, you coming along?
And welcome back to episode 16 of the Grappling Growth podcast with myself, Krasniqi, and my co-host, Joe Testouri. Now, today we're going to be doing another question, and this question comes from Reddit, and it's a question that's close to our hearts, Joe. I know this because we've dealt with this situation many times. And it comes from someone that's building things with code. So I'm guessing they build websites, developers, that sort of thing. And he says, daily, I meet potential clients who want to do percentage splits. They come up with this weird idea that I build whatever they want and they offer me a percentage of the income. This isn't just SaaS deals, but even companies with their WordPress websites, app development, software, etc. What am I doing wrong to attract these people? Some of them actually have the money to pay my rate. So how do I stop attracting the clients and start attracting clients who are willing to pay the money? What do you think, Joe?
We discussed this briefly before we jumped on the podcast, and we decided that we wanted to split this question down into two tranches. So the first part is tactical, so it's focusing on tactics you can encompass on your website or booking form, wherever these leads are coming from. And then we want to speak about the sales part of this. So to break this down tactically, the issue for me massively comes down to the positioning. See, prospects only try their luck when they think they can try their luck. If you have authority in the space you're operating in, then prospects try this on a lot less, is what I've found. So from a brand perspective, building high quality content, producing high quality content, whether that's SEO blogs or that's producing videos that are on social media, that will help you with that, because ultimately people will be coming to you and viewing you as an authority. What are your thoughts, Erald?
I think it's a great point. To sort of like generally answer the question in terms of like attracting, and I don't like the way it's phrased so much. They say I attract the wrong people. What am I doing wrong to attract these people? You know, clients come in all shapes and forms, and there are people that are typically happier to deal with low ticket, and some clients that position themselves a bit differently. We've spoken about this in other episodes. Your positioning, your price is your position, right? Mm-hmm. So however you price your services is kind of the position you set yourself in the market. If you are a cheap or cheaply put in comparison to other competitors, then your quality and how people perceive your brand is going to kind of reflect that. The higher you position your product, the more value is actually signaled that it actually it has. So the first part, and I think we'll get into positioning in a bit more detail, Joe, because I know you've got a really good point in it, is like the key part. And then also think about if you're doing outreach or getting clients coming into you, there's a very different like way that you'd handle that. If you're doing outreach and you find out that a client, upon doing your due diligence, isn't worth talking to, you should probably not waste your time. There are many telltale signs. Look at a company's online presence as it stands. If they are a public large company, look at records online to indicate profit and loss statements, or whether they've worked with agencies before, or if they have a certain number of sales that you can see from places like SimilarWeb, or check out their organic traffic. A lot of websites and companies that have a large presence will generally have the budgets to match. Dealing with solo businesses or businesses that are like brick and mortar, sort of on the low scales, it's going to be very hard to find a client that's willing to pay thousands of pounds in retainers for a development service if they don't really spend that on anything else. Not to say that this isn't a worthwhile venture. Coding and building websites, apps, all of this is really important, but I think there's a lot more to it. What do you think, Joe?
You've raised some really good points, and there's something we've actually introduced into our coaching business, which is there to fix problems similar to the one that's been mentioned here. So I think there's predominantly two types of offers. There's intimate offers. So intimate offers are one where, generally speaking, it's very time heavy. So it'd be you or this person or me doing the actual work. And then there's scalable offers, ones that you can stack up. They're generally higher, more profitable, cheaper to fulfill most of the time. And it might be a case of thinking about how you can expand your offers. So traditionally, most businesses thinking in a very intimate fashion, where it's especially service-based businesses where they're exchanging their time for money consistently. Whereas if you can reposition to a more scalable offer, something, and the fact that they've mentioned code is very scalable. So for instance, let's talk about repositioning this offer. For example, instead of them turning around and actually running the code for the client, they could teach the client how to do this themselves. And then that way, that would be a cheaper offer. Or they could say, hey, I've built XYZ, and this could be done through a course, and then maybe something that's semi-intimate, such as a community. And then that way, they're delivering something one-to-many or something that requires less of their time. And then that way, they can charge in two ways. They can charge a lower price, so they don't lose that lead. And I wouldn't even say you do get cheap clients, of course, but some clients might not have the budget now. And that's where you can start to think about the lifetime value of prospects, because we both know entrepreneurs in their 20s that, for me, I'll give them 10 years and they're going to be wealthy, successful people. So I don't want to turn my nose to those people because they're too young, they don't have the budget, and they've got that propensity to have a high degree of potential. That's how I would reposition this problem. And don't get me wrong, not every solution can be moved from intimate to scalable. But I think from what I've heard here and what I've done myself in my own experience, because I used to turn away people who couldn't afford our products or services, and as time went on, my ultra low ticket offer came in, which is way more scalable. So once they gets to a point where it'll make absolute sense for me, but it takes some time to build. So that's just kind of personal experience that I've got from my end.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a definite view to probably avoid, in terms of like the offer that you're bringing, and I agree with the sort of like expanding the offer and having multiple options to suit different clients with sort of varying levels of commitment, let's say. I see a lot of the common mistake, I think, and we're going to talk about agencies, and I'm specifically talking about this person's agency. If you're talking about dev, marketing, content, anything like that, try to move away from hourly pricing if you can. Hourly pricing is only used by freelancers generally. If you know how big agencies work, how they do it is that they have retainers, and then internally they have hourly prices or day rates for their internal costs. So they'll have a retainer for £10,000 a month, and then they'll break out that SEO is going to cost £2,000 a month based on the day rates. Content's going to cost this much based on the day rates, etc., etc. And then on that day rate, they have a margin, right? That's kind of how it typically was done. And retainers are good in that way. But the problem is that if anything does take more resource from an hourly perspective, you end up having a much less profitable client when it comes to margin. So think about projects as a value set or retainers as a value set. So if you can provide X amount of value, the retainer should reflect the kind of value you can bring. That way, you're not falling into the trap of, a scope creep, losing margin because of like overcommitment on time, or anything that's to do with minor costs that come in. You might have to replace team members, you might have to like add a new tool into the tool set, that sort of thing. For me, generally a successful agency would function on about 35 to 55% margins, and a retainer priced around that would enable you to move in between 55 and 35% over the course of a year. That would average out to, hopefully around 40% margins, which I think would actually be quite healthy.
Yeah. I guess you've expanded on it from your experience. So we mentioned a few other tactics that they could place, for instance, on their forms or on their website, highlighting, we do not do any partnership or commission deals. We strictly run a flat fee. If you're here to barter or haggle or whatever, sorry, we're not the agency for you. And sometimes having that messaging that deters people away in the first instance is better. And a lot of people are fearful of doing said thing when they're talking to prospects. But fundamentally, what's better, wasting your time with prospects who you don't want to work with, or turning around and having these essentially traps in place prior to jumping on meetings with you? And I think that's just a tactic, but I think a lot of it just comes down to the positioning. And as you mentioned a really good point, are you the one who's pitching the prospect? Are you going out to find them, or are they coming to you? Because generally speaking, people try their luck more if you go out to find them versus inbound leads. So that, again, that's a bit of a juxtaposition to the problem, and you've got more leverage if people are coming to you, and you can use that in your sales process. So, Erald, within the realms of sales, so we've kind of covered the first facet. What do you think can be done within sales in the second part? So once you're on that call, anything that can actually be deployed there?
It's a great question. And I'm going to go off piece, Joe. And I think what would be a good way of displaying this is to actually role play a situation, right, where this occurs. If you want to try this with me, I'll be the client. I'll be the client. You be the agency, right? I'm the client.
So you're putting me under pressure.
Yeah, you're gonna have to like rebuff me, and I'm not gonna make it too difficult, okay? But you're gonna sell me, in this case, a website for £10,000, and my budget's gonna be less than that. But you're gonna approach me as I would. So let's say you've done the pitch process. We'll keep it very high level. This isn't meant to be like super detailed, and I'll just come back with some general objections that you might have and how you think will be best to tackle them.
Sure, let's go.
Sound good?
Yeah, let's go.
Cool. So thank you, Joe. Could you run me through what you're proposing and what the price is? That's the most important thing for our company. So we'd like to know what we're paying for.
Absolutely, Erald. So based on all of the variables, factors, and what you're looking to achieve from this project, we would roughly look at a range of anywhere up to £12,000 to get this project done, and a downwards of £8,000. Now, the reason why I give you a range is because naturally there's extra additional bespoke customizations that we want to go into that you've mentioned throughout this call. So I don't want to give you a fixed price and then come back and mention to you that the investment is actually going to be higher. How does that sit within your budget?
Okay, I appreciate that, Joe. To be honest, a lot higher than we were thinking.
A lot higher.
I've spoken to some other agencies, and I really think that you could do this for 5. I mean, could we do something for 5,000? What could we realistically do?
Look, Erald, I would love to do it for 5, but I know what you want to achieve with your business. And given the goals that you want to achieve within the next year and knowing what's required, I would do you a disservice if we were to look at a package for £5,000. So in all honesty, I'd rather walk away because I know the quality that we produce and what is required to actually get this over the line and actually give you the thing that's a need for your business and not a want is within that range. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, of course. Look, we want to grow and we have big goals this year. Like we really want to push, like this investment's trying to get us to that £250,000 mark. And we just really feel comfortable around the 5,000 mark. And I know your services are good. We want to work with you, but we have had other people quote us less. So I'm just thinking about what we're meant to do as an organization to move forward with you. That's all.
Right. Can I ask you a direct question?
Yeah, go on.
So, of the agencies that you've spoken to, if money was not the obstacle and you could pick who you really wanted to work with, would we be the agency that you want to work with, or has there been another agency that you thought is a better representation and aligned to your business than us?
I know, absolutely. You guys are the front runners. I won't lie to you. We want to work with you for sure. And of course, me as the CMO, I have to look at marketing budgets and make sure things make sense. If money wasn't an object, of course we'd work with you. But naturally, as business goes, we have to consider that, right?
I appreciate that, Rod. I appreciate that. And fundamentally, And equally, we want to work with you and we know what needs to be done to help you achieve your goals. But let's just kind of take a step back and break this down.
Okay.
The investment, let's just call it a flat £10,000. Now,
Okay.
what we're suggesting and proposing is that you're investing £10,000 to make back £250,000. That's your revenue goal for the end of the year, right?
That's the goal, yeah.
So essentially, that's a 25x. And we know that the website that you're looking for is going to be a contribution. Now, we've gone through numbers of what your website's currently doing with regards to its conversion rate. And plausibly, we can help you uplift that conversion rate by 50%, which isn't unreasonable. And as we've discussed your competitors, we know what other people in the market are roughly doing, their volume from analysis. So what we're looking to do is bridge that gap for you. And I don't just want to think of this relationship as something that's going to bring you an ROI within the next year. We work with clients and we want to work with clients for the next few years, not for the next few months. And I think that's one of our core values. And that's why we charge more than our competitors, because we know the quality we bring. And for us, we would rather have fewer clients than more clients if we hold them for longer. So I completely hear what you're saying. Does that sound unreasonable based on what I've said?
It does. And, I don't want to waste your time, Joe. I know that you're a great agency and it's been obvious. Like we've watched all the content you've put out. We know all the awards you've won. And that's part of the reason why we really wanted to move forward with your agency. Like we've seen the work and we really want something like that. Look, I think there's obviously a discrepancy in the budget. Maybe it's something that we need to go back to the finance team and talk about how we can push that budget up. 8 to 12,000 is still above probably what we wanted to pay, but all things considered, I've seen a new perspective to it, and I think that's something that I'd like to entertain further. So I'll go back to our team. I think I appreciate your candidness about it. If you can send us over a full proposal, written proposal with all of that in there, we'll come back to you and discuss terms. Does that sound all right?
That sounds all right. I did just have one thought right now, actually, Erald.
Yeah.
Would you be against hearing it out? It's just something that's come off the cusp.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Right. So we've spoken now for the last, 6-7 weeks, and I think there's natural rapport here. I think you'd be fantastic to work with. And for me, I believe in the brand. I back the brand. Here's something I would be willing to do. And I'd love to share the idea with you. So my thinking is this. I want you to know that I'm invested in the growth and the potential of this project. And we've done this for 2 other clients before, and it's gone fantastically well. And it's always because I've trusted my gut. So let's just assume the investment is £10,000. And we will bill, or throughout the project, 80% of the investment. And then we will take the final remaining 20% 3 months after the website goes live. And this is something we'll come to and we'll we'll work out some numbers, but we'll work out a target number which will unlock that remaining 20%. Does that sound fair to you?
You know what, Joe? I'm glad you brought that up. That actually isn't something I considered would be possible. And if we could, that would really de-risk us, because the website is going to make a massive difference. If you can do that and we can see the results after 3 months, and I'm hoping that we'll get the investment back, then I'd be willing to agree to those terms. It's more in line with what we had planned. So I appreciate you being so flexible with it.
I appreciate it. And that's under one condition. Can I mention that condition?
Yeah, of course.
At the end of those 3 months, when you're happy with the website and everything is going swimmingly, you shoot us a really nice, fantastic testimonial. Sound fair enough?
Hey, listen, if you can get me to that 250 mark, I'll do a video testimonial, written testimonial, whatever you like. I'm happy to do that for sure.
Lovely. Perfect. I will summarize everything in an email so we can get going and we will move this forward. Lovely, Erald.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for your time. And scene. Beautiful. Now look,
I had to come out the
that
mode.
role play. How did that feel, Joe? Out of curiosity.
I feel
was that too difficult as a client?
No, you're what I'd like to think of as a reasonable and fair clients, some people are just massively unreasonable and they want to pull your pants down. But I like dealing with people like that they want a fair deal, and equally they just want to know that they're getting a good exchange, and they know that the person is an expert. And I also think people, prospects to an extent, do want to pay you these rates if you can justify it. And a lot of it comes down to how you answer those questions. See, if I turned around and said, oh, it's $5,000, yeah, sure, I'll do it, then they'd think, wait, hang on a minute, you've just pretty much halved your price to do this project. How is that possible? And I think having that backbone and objecting and saying, well, actually, this is what we can do. And I always think, figure out that compromise, because that's a big far part way. 8, 10 grand, 12 grand. So even 8 to 5 is $3,000. It's a significant percentage increase. Is figuring out how can you still get to your original goal without splitting the difference, so to speak, but then doing something where you're confident. So knowing that we wanted to hit the bottom range of 8K, and then saying, well, if we achieve and we hit quota within a reasonable time period that isn't too far ahead. And the way how I broke it down as well is from when the web build is complete, how long after would that 3 months be from the initial cash collected? Because generally speaking, we would receive our cash collected a month, the final payment a month after the website's completely signed off and snags it all taken care of. So I've delayed the final payment by 2 months as opposed to getting it then. So that's how I positioned it in my head.
Nice. Yeah. And I think, like, to this person's question as well, because they talk about percentage bonuses, what Joe did is not, it's very different to what's being proposed. A lot of people are coming to you saying, work for free and we'll give you percentage bonus. That's not really how you should function. But a performance bonus that helps reach a client's goal whilst de-risking the offer actually does have a really big impact as to how they view it. Because now it's like, in their mind, it's an 8K investment. That 2,000 doesn't actually kick in until something happens, which means that the agency still gets their, I don't want to say bottom line number, because at the end of the day, the agency should still achieve the 10,000 if it's within reason, like the performance, basis is in reason. But still enables the business to feel like they've won something there. And I think a lot of the things that Joe did during that call, if you listen back, is he told me that he understood where I was coming from, but then also stood firm on his ground by saying, look, we'd love to work with you at 5K if we could, but like we know that what our work is worth is this, and you will get the results from it, or you know that the work's going to be high quality. And I think hamping down, like going down on those points is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and you see this when you make certain offers to people, you see this sort of light bulb switch in their head. So, and it's also building up to it. So the points that I made were, I've just come up with an idea, and could I mention it to you, Erald? And you'd obviously say yes, or would you be against me mentioning it? No. And then coming in and just saying, it's just something I thought of. And we've done it a few times with some clients and mentioning parts of we really like, we trust, we've had great relationships. That is mirroring that the people you've only made the offer to before. Well, I like that person, and it's a compliment to that person. And then mentioning, so I thought about this. And then when you drop the offer, you can see the split second after it's made, they go, yeah, okay, cool. And there's excitement and urgency in getting that deal across the line. And if I was kind of going back in hindsight, I could have said, look, I'm happy to make this deal, but I can only hold it out for the next 2 weeks because we've got X, Y, Z or whatever. And then that way we've added even more urgency to the offer, because it's a one-time offer, and it's saying, hey, let's get this over the line, but we've got a bit of a time period because of so and so. That's something you could have done depending on the prospect.
Absolutely, yeah. So many different methods that we use during the call, and so many others that I think are important to bear in mind, which we'll definitely delve into another episode. In fact, you've done a lot of content on this on your social media, Joe. I urge people to check out Joe's content, or the Bespoke Academy if you're an agency owner or business
Stop
entrepreneur.
plugging me every episode.
To scale. Look, I love the program. I've been doing it myself, so really having fun in the community. And I think a lot of people would value that. But if you would like to just consume it for free, then jump on our Instagram, send us a message, send us an email at podcast@grapplinggrowth.com, and we'll answer there. Closing thoughts, Joe? What have you got to say?
That roleplay, you've got me on my toes, and I'm going to murder you after this. No, that was good fun. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in and listened, and we really hope you found value from what we did today. That was very spontaneous, and maybe we'll do a few more sections like that in the future. What do you think?
Yeah, keep an eye out for more. Any like scenarios that you want us to play out, we'll do so. And I think this is one that we've encountered before. We might have a scenario that we've never encountered, and we'll show you how we'd handle it.
Yeah, massively. Nice one, Erald.
All right, great. Thanks for listening.
See ya.